Do you know why I'm writing a werewolf screenplay? Shh. That's why. Please subscribe show, YouTube. Cole Spivey. That was good. That was real good.
The dog's okay.
Anyway, this is what it sounds like. You can kind of see it through my... we should do, you know what? We should do live streams like this. Live streams the whole time, just like this. When we do live streams, we should just cuddle, and it'd be cuddling.
I fall off the couch.
Cuddling with...
They need to make an extension off the couch. The couch is only like
Cuddling.
6 inches. I'm falling off.
Cuddling. It's based on a book called La Motocyclette, or La Motocyclette. It's a novel, and it's called Girl on a Motorcycle. It's Girl on a Motorcycle. The editor was Peter Musgrave. And I don't know if we can use this music, but this would be an idea of possibly like one of our live streams where we watch French films and stuff. Because if people don't know, this little lady right here, this beautiful lady is actually French. Take your glasses off to show how pretty Linda is. She's actually really pretty, and she's French and
Irish. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, and happy St. Patty's Day. Vlog is over. There was a wild barking that was going on in the other room, so we had to move to another room. But yes, it is true. I'm in the process of writing a werewolf screenplay called Grace, which is a title that Grace is what you say before dinner. But the actual title of the werewolf screenplay is just called Grace. And it's about a mixed martial arts fighter that is supposedly a werewolf, and his name is Grace Lippin. He's an Apache. Well, there is a vlogger known as Oldman III. Gerald.
Remember
Oldman.
the old apartments?
Gerald.
The coyotes got us kicked out.
The coyotes. Gerald Oldman
and they thought it was
III.
us.
Gerald Oldman III is in the UK.
Sorry.
He's in the United Kingdom.
Cat, not a coyote.
Gerald Oldman III is in the United Kingdom, and he's a vlogger. It's mostly about vloggers. And he vlogs these werewolf hunts that he goes off on in the United Kingdom. And Gerald Oldman finds out that this famous mixed martial arts artist known as Lippin, GL is what he goes by. He doesn't like going by Grace because he thinks it sounds sissy, but he goes by GL or Lippin, Grace Lippin. He finds out that Grace fights very well and very quick, but he has a tattoo, a strange tattoo that he knows about. That's a gypsy tattoo that nobody knows the symbol but gypsies. And these gypsies know about the lycanthrope, which is a curse that creates a werewolf. Well, Gerald realizes that there's some mutilations going on from cattle mutilations happening in a town called Barksville, Texas. Okay, this is set modern day. There's smartphones and stuff. So he decides he wants to move the vlog from the United Kingdom to Texas. I thought of Gary Oldman for Gerald Oldman III. So he's going to fly to Texas, but first he has to make a stop. He makes a stop in a place called Portland, Oregon, where he runs across a man named John Blacksmith, who's actually a blacksmith, and he is a vlogger too, out in Oregon. And that vlogger does vlogs about werewolves and werewolf weaponry. He makes it out of silver. So Gerald Oldman III flies, and Gerald Oldman's an older guy. He's like in his 60s. Gary Oldman's age. Gary Oldman is actually spelled with an E on the end. Jerry Oldman flies to Seattle in an airplane and then goes to Portland. Well, basically goes to Portland, Oregon. Flies to Portland, Oregon. The Seattle thing. Portland, Oregon. She's throwing me off. So Portland, Oregon. He flies to Portland, Oregon and meets John Blacksmith in a back alley to buy some of this high-tech werewolf equipment that's even used as it's like a flamethrower of silver. But he uses like arrows and daggers and all this other stuff. So John Blacksmith is a younger guy, probably in his late 20s. He's got dreadlocks. He's very kind of grunge, if you would say. But he makes werewolf weaponry. Now, here is the rub, okay? They hook up and they go to Barksville, Texas to find this werewolf known as Grace Lippin. Well, when they finally confront him, and it takes time, they have to follow him around. They have a special app. They have an application on the phone that follows him. Okay, just like Kimmy. Kimmy came out, Soderbergh film. This is what happens. I'm probably going to upload this one first, but this is what happens.
So
Gerald Oldman III and the young John Blacksmith decide to travel around Barksville and find where Grace is living. They decide to confront him. And when they knock on the door and talk to him, they guess who answers the door? Well, Grace has a lover. And we get these stories between his lover. The lover is Rainey Love. Rainey Love, based on someone that I know. Rainey Love attempted to be a rock star. She attempted to be like this famous rock star. Didn't do so good in the rock, punk rock, maybe rock. Think of Courtney Love maybe, but maybe more kind of rock and roll. Well, her name was Rainey Love. And she didn't do so well, maybe because of the name. I don't know why she didn't do so well. Her music was okay, but she did do some concerts. She toured around, and she fell in love with Grace Lippin, and they decided to kind of have like a common law marriage. And Grace Lippin bought a ranch in Barksville and moves Rainey Love in there. Well, Rainey takes these long walks at night. Well, what they ended up doing, and these are mysterious walks, people go missing in Barksville. And one of the missing people is a gardener who's also a lawnmower guy. A Hispanic guy, speaks mostly Spanish. Well, he goes missing, and lo and behold, Grace Lippin is out looking for this gardener guy that went missing in the field. He comes across this cave that's in this field under this rock. It's a deep cave, and there at the bottom of the cave is the gardener's flashlight and some of the gardener's tools, gardening tools.
Ah.
The gardener goes missing, but there's also some like blood on the rock and stuff, so it looks like some kind of an animal got him or something. Other people start going missing in the town of Barksville. There's also a sequel to this movie too. It's a horror film. Now, the cave is found out. Well, later on, you find out there's a cave. The cave is tied with these gypsies and this curse of the lycanthrope. Okay, there's something in the cave that causes this curse. We'll get to that later. But that's too complex to get into right now. We're just doing the basic stuff. Now, we know that people are going missing, and we know that
I'm about to fall asleep.
Grace Lippin has find out about that his gardener went missing, and he was supposed to find him out there in the field. He was just mowing the lawn. He just goes missing on a full moon. He also notices that Rainey Love goes on long walks around about the time of the waxing gibbous, or right before the full moon. Well, lo and behold, there's a knock at the door, and guess who it is? John Blacksmith and Gerald Oldman III. And they confront Grace, and they ask him that they think there's a werewolf, and they know it's probably him. Well, they want to see his tattoo. Well, he doesn't slam the door on him, though. Rainey Love is the one that actually answers the door when they knock on the door. Grace doesn't the first time. She thinks they're crazy. They explain that they're doing a vlog show. Remember, John Blacksmith has a vlog show. Gerald Oldman III has a vlog, a video show that's on like YouTube and whatever, right? It's like a video show. They're saying, well, I have a show about werewolves. We want to talk about werewolves. We think there's a werewolf in Barksville killing cattle, and also people are going missing. Here's another thing. Okay. They get kicked off the ranch because Rainey Love calls them crazy. Well, Rainey doesn't want them to communicate, but they're still following Grace Lippin on a special app on John Blacksmith's phone. It's a special app that can follow Grace because they get Grace's information to follow him on the phone, probably like an email or something like that. They even follow him one time to Home Depot. Now, I got some of these ideas from other vloggers that I watch. Well, remember, the gardener falls underneath this rock. He slides this rock back with his tractor. I'm watching. And the tractor moves the rock back, and underneath is the cave. He uses his own tractor to do it. Got that off a special a vlogger that I watch. Now, regardless, here's the funny thing. The gardener did his own vlogging show, mostly in Spanish. And he vlogged his own show to the point of his death, which they haven't got that footage yet, which will be leaked out later, probably in the sequel. But when the gardener got killed by the werewolf in the cave thing, he was actually vlogging the cave. And he was like doing it kind of like in Spanish, half English. It's pretty fun. It's a kind of a funny sequence. Okay, here's the other part. Okay, so John Blacksmith and Gerald Ullman III meet at this nearby Barksville motel, which is like an 8-floor motel. It's like a hotel motel kind of thing, more like a motel that's actually stacked. I guess you could call it a hotel. We don't have to debate if it's a motel or a hotel, but they kind of debate about it. But regardless, they decide to go again, but this time they get this Uber driver, and they talk him to go to the Uber driver. They use this Uber driver throughout the show. Now, there's one scene where they're driving all the way from Portland, Oregon to Texas, to Barksville, Texas, and they love to sing the song, I drink Scotch whiskey all night long, because Gerald Ullman likes Scotch whiskey. And drive behind the wheel, right? You all know that song. There's a name for the losers in the world. There's a name for the winners in the world. I want a name when you lose. Okay, I drink Scotch whiskey all night long. They sing that songs like that. Well, they decide when they park before the ranch, they're bored and they're waiting for Grace to make his move to see if he goes out late. Because he runs errands. Grace has weird hours. He's a mixed martial artist, kind of like a Ultimate Fighting Championship. He's kind of weird. He's done some probably steroids, things like that. Okay, here's what happens. He loses John Blacksmith and Gerald Ullman lose their patience, and they're listening to Werewolf in London. Now, I know you know the singer to it, so we all know who sang Werewolves of London. Werewolves of London. And they're singing that, and they're waiting. Well, you know who sang it. It's in the screenplay. We know who sang that song. Everybody knows that one. Anyway, the Uber driver gets drunk too, and they're trying to talk the Uber driver into driving through the fence to get through to the ranch. They're really getting obsessed. The Uber driver won't do it, but then Blacksmith leans over and pushes it in drive and pushes him forward or something, and the car just barely kind of goes and it breaks through the fence, and they jump out because they use the car as a way to break down the fence, and they go running towards the ranch. Well, lo and behold, they make it to the front door, and they knock on it, and who answers the door? But Grace, and he's mad. But they grab him, because it's a full moon, and they tell him, we know you're a werewolf. We know you're a werewolf. You have this tattoo. Let's see it. And they pull him out, and they've got all the silver equipment and the daggers and this flamethrower thing. And when he gets in the silver moonlight, he does not change into a werewolf. It's like a crazy moment. It'd be really hard to pull off. But with great acting, you could. And who am I thinking that could play Grace Lippin? Of course, an option is Bradley Cooper, okay? I mean, I could play it, but I'd have to go through a lot of Pilates. Like a Bradley Cooper, maybe a Mark Wahlberg, but someone that can be a fighter. Okay, Bradley could probably do it. Maybe it worked out a little bit. He's getting older, but so Grace Lippin is older too because he's too old to fight now. He's a retired mixed martial arts guy. So he's like in he's almost in his 50s, probably like late 40s. His back is starting to go, things like that. A lot of stuff. I haven't even mentioned the other guy. No. I was originally going to play Grace Lippin. There's another guy that I wanted to play his friend, St. Patty the Great. And St. Patty, or St. Patty's Day? Happy St. Patty's? Okay. Anyway, there's another guy, I was thinking maybe Bradley could play St. Patty the Great, and I could play Grace Lippin or something, or Mark Wahlberg could play Grace Lippin, or I don't know, somebody could play him. But regardless, you got to think of those things when you write a screenplay. So let's just say Bradley Cooper plays St. Patty the Great. This is like his friend that he fights. Think of Shamrock and Hoist Gracie, those two that fight. They're kind of the same thing. Grace Lippin is Apache. He's an Apache guy. But St. Patty the Great is actually, let me finish, hang on. St. Patty the Great is actually, he's probably like Irish, okay? St. Patty the Great. So they're friends and everything, and there's a scene where they get on horseback ride and they talk, and secretly we don't know they're friends. You think they actually fight, but you think they're enemies. Well, what ends up happening is St. Patty has a motorcycle, and he goes driving off in the middle of this, this woods, and he gets killed by the werewolf in one of the sequences. So he loses his friends. They don't even know where St. Patty is supposed to go to Japan because he's studying more jiu-jitsu. He was on his way to Japan. He stops by to see Grace Lippin in Texas and wants to talk to him about fighting and stuff like that. And he goes missing on his motorcycle. Well, a werewolf gets him. So that's another side story, but that happens way later. Anyway, they finally knock on the door for the second time. They approach him and they say, we know you're a werewolf. Come out into the moonlight. Just come out in the moonlight. And they pull him out. And he's like, they're fighting with him. Both of them, they're trying to get him. He goes out in the moonlight. And he's like, what? You want to see? What do you want? You want to see this tattoo? Because they keep bugging him about the tattoo. Rips off his shirt, shows him the tattoo, and says, this is the tattoo? He's like, yes, that's an ancient gypsy sign for lycanthropy, which means werewolf. That's an ancient symbol for lycanthropy, or lycanthropy, a lycanthropy, a lycanthrope, like a lycanthropy. That means that you're a werewolf. Why aren't you changing it to werewolf? It's a full moon. They can't figure it out. He goes, listen, let me just tell you something. If I tell you this, would you please just leave my place and never come back? Like, first of all, this tattoo was not even my idea. They're like, oh, really? This isn't your right. Who gave you this tattoo? We want to know how you found out about this tattoo. Because Gerald Ullman III knows actually this is a gypsy tattoo that signifies that person's a werewolf. It's part of the curse. In this story, you have to have that tattoo in order to even be turned into that werewolf in this story. He says, it's not my idea. It was Rainey's idea. She gave me this photo of the tattoo. And they know from that point that Rainey Love is the werewolf. Now, what do they do next? Well, they leave because, Grace is going to kill them. He threatens to cut their heads off with a reciprocating saw. He actually says that's the line. It's like, if you don't leave my ranch, I will cut your head off with a reciprocating saw. And they decide to leave. He's really mad at this point. He's kind of almost laughing at them. In a way, he's drunk and they're a little bit drunk and they have a drunk moment. They are drunk when they approach the door. Regardless, they leave. They leave. And they decide to come back a third time. But this time they come back in the back. And that's when they have the fight with Rainy Love, the werewolf, who changes into a werewolf on a full moon when she goes into the silver light. And what happens? Well, here's the ending. John Blacksmith gets scratched in the back. That means he'll be destined to turn into a werewolf. Actually, you know what? I think John Blacksmith not only gets scratched in the back, but he loses his whole hand. It gets ripped off by the werewolf. And she takes it back to the kitchen. You never see the werewolf the entire movie, ever once. You only see the shadow of the werewolf. You may see a paw go through, but you never see the werewolf ever. At the very, very end, in the kitchen, lo and behold, Grace comes running in. And they've been fighting with Rainy Love off and on. Because you just see her shadow, whoosh, and she comes through. She's like too quick. You never even see her. The camera never picks her up. Well, there she is in the kitchen. She's got the skillet out, and she's frying up John Blacksmith's hand in the skillet.
Ooh.
Yeah, she's frying up his hand. Grace walks in and is like, what is this? He looks at her legs, and there her legs are lycanthrope legs. They're werewolf legs.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're werewolf legs.
First
real hairy legs. No, they're real legs. They're hairy. I'm serious. This is what happens. I'm serious about the screenplay. Grace decides to kill her with a silver dagger in her heart. And he does because Gerald gets scratched in the back too. And we know Gerald will probably turn soon into a werewolf. Because when they were in the back coming through, they were trying to jump the fence and stuff, and that's when Rainey attacks them. Scratches both of them, chops off John Blacksmith's hand, scratches Gerald in the back. Well, Grace finally decides to call the authorities. And at the end, you see the red and blue flashlights flashing through the living room. All that's going on. And Gerald looks up at him, and you think he's about to die because he's got a pretty big slash in his back from Rainy Love's claw. But we don't see Rainy Love's claw. She can shapeshift pretty quickly. This is a real weird werewolf movie. She can shapeshift kind of back into a human, then back into a werewolf. But her legs are still werewolves at this point. Well, she ends up getting the dagger in her heart, so she turns back into Rainy Love as she dies. So she shapeshifts back into her original state. But we know that Gerald Oldman III has been affected. And he looks up and he tries to say something, but we can't make out what he's trying to say. He's trying to speak. And Grace goes over and says, what is it? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? And that'll all lead into the sequel. But we don't ever hear what he's saying. His eyes grow shut. And then you see like this fur start to grow on his skin, right? And he makes kind of a noise, and we see that he's starting to change. And that's when the authorities bust in, and we know that he's about to turn to a werewolf at that point because, well, the back window is open, the silver light's coming through. Anyway, there's a lot of other sequences that I haven't gone through. There's detailed sequences. There's lots of dialogue between Rainy Love and Grace Lippin and St. Patty the Great, and I've got most of the screenplay almost done. I'm working on the tail end fight sequence, which is going to be the hard parts because the fight sequence takes time. You got to figure out, you kind of got to map out where everybody's going to go, what's going to happen, where the werewolf is going to strike from. So all that stuff I'm saving for when I become more of a skillful writer to be able to kind of put that through. But I wanted to lay out the entire thing. This is 19 minutes. I'm setting it up. This is my story of Grace, the werewolf screenplay. Okay.
Awesome.
So, okay. Okay. So, animal control has certain types. Yeah, animal control has, they can do certain things to the dog. The dog is nonstop barking, or if the dog is, let's say, if the dog is rabid, because sometimes people will keep rabid dogs. So the dog is consistently barking. They can do things. You got the hiccups?
Yeah.
You can hold your breath or drink water.
You have to hold all holes. I don't know. Somebody showed up and now the dog's quiet.
Right. It was probably animal control.
I don't know. He had a blue jacket on.
Right. They're those dogs.
They
said I've already written about them. They made Chin
and
Part 2.
then the other lady across over there was like, "Shut up the dogs." I'm like, "Yeah,
right.
Shut up the dogs."
My sequel to the book Chin, it made Chin Part 2. You need to hold your breath or drink water. Anyway, we're watching this one. It's a Jack Cardiff. Martin Scorsese's fan of this guy, Jack Cardiff. Here, get some water. Jack Cardiff film.
Oh, I gotta roll off.
But unfortunately, we have to rewind it because Linda has the hiccups. There we go again. So it's about this girl played by Marion Faithfull. Marion Faithfull plays Rebecca, and Rebecca decides to leave her husband, who is a cello player or a teacher. She leaves the husband to run off or to run for or to drive off to this lover. She runs off with this lover on a motorcycle, and she takes, I guess, her husband's motorcycle, and she goes across country to find this other lover.